I never thought it would end like this. We were inseparable best friends who shared everything, from our deepest secrets to our most embarrassing moments. We laughed together, cried together, and built a bond that no one could break, or so I thought. Her name was Clara, and she was the kind of friend who always had my back, no matter what. But all of that changed in the blink of an eye. It all started the summer after graduation. We were living in a small town called Ashford, a place where everyone knew everyone else's business, and gossip spread like wildfire. Clara and I had spent our entire childhood there, going to the same school, living on the same street, and having every sleepover you could imagine. She was the sister I never had, and I thought that bond would last forever. But something was off that summer. I couldn't put my finger on it at first, but I could feel the tension building. It was like a storm brewing in the distance, waiting to hit us when we least expected it. It all began one late afternoon, when I showed up at Clara's house unannounced, as I always did. I had a key to her place, just like she had one to mine. It was a kind of friendship where privacy didn't exist. We were always there for each other, no matter the time or day. Clara. I called out as I stepped into the house. The air inside felt unusually thick, almost suffocating. I hadn't seen her all day, and I was eager to share some news of my dream job offer in the city. It was everything I had hoped for, and I wanted Clara to be the first to know. I walked through the living room, then into the kitchen, where I found Clara standing by the window, staring outside. She didn't turn when I entered, and there was something cold about her posture. I frowned. Clara. I repeated, a little louder this time. She finally turned to face me, but her smile was forced. There was no warmth in her eyes, just a distant, unreadable look. Hey, sorry, I didn't hear you come in. What's up? I took a deep breath, eager to share my excitement. I got the job. The one I told you about. I'm moving to the city next month. I said, my voice trembling slightly with excitement. Her reaction wasn't what I expected. Instead of the joy and enthusiasm I thought she'd show, her eyes flickered with something darker. For a split second, I saw a flash of jealousy, or was it anger? I couldn't tell. But whatever it was, it made my heart skip a beat. That's great, she said, her voice flat. I frowned, my excitement beginning to fade. You don't seem happy for me. What's going on, Clara? She shifted uncomfortably, her gaze dropping to the floor. It's nothing. I'm just tired. I knew something was wrong. Clara had never been one to hide her feelings, and this was unlike her. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to shatter between us. The next few days were even stranger. Clara stopped calling, stopped texting, and when we did meet up, it was awkward, like we were strangers instead of best friends. I tried to talk to her, to figure out what was going on, but every time I asked, she deflected, offering excuses that didn't make sense. I could see it in her eyes. There was something she wasn't telling me. Then came the night of the party. It was a small gathering, a celebration for some of our friends who were heading off to college. Clara and I had always been inseparable at parties, the life of the event, but that night, she barely spoke to me. She kept her distance, laughing with other people, avoiding my gaze. I noticed her whispering to some guy I didn't recognize. He was tall, with dark hair and a charming smile, but there was something off about him. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I didn't trust him. When I approached Clara to ask who he was, she quickly brushed me off, saying he was just a friend from a neighbouring town. But something in her voice didn't sound right. It was almost like she was hiding something. It wasn't long before I saw Clara and this guy slip out the back door, disappearing into the night. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was nothing. But a nagging feeling in my gut told me otherwise. So I waited, standing by the door, watching for any sign of them. After what felt like hours, I saw them return, laughing together, clearly closer than ever. When Clara spotted me, her face went pale, like she'd been caught doing something wrong. She didn't even apologize for disappearing, just offered a quick, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave you hanging." But I couldn't let it go. Something was changing, and I didn't know how to stop it. My best friend was slipping away from me, and I didn't know why. The guy, who was still standing close to Clara, shot me a look that made my blood run cold. He knew something I didn't, and I hated it. The next morning, Clara and I finally had a confrontation. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. I was too hurt, too confused to ignore it anymore. "Clara, what's going on?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "Why are you avoiding me? Who is he? And why are you acting so strange?" Clara looked at me, her face expressionless, but her eyes betrayed her there was guilt in them, as though she had done something unforgivable. She took a deep breath, then spoke in a low, shaky voice. "I never meant for it to happen. I didn't want to hurt you." "Hurt me? What are you talking about?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. She paused for a long moment, then whispered the words that would change everything. "I've been seeing him behind your back. I didn't mean for it to get serious, but it has. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to lose you as my friend." My world tilted on its axis. I could barely process what I was hearing. Clara, my best friend, had been seeing the guy I didn't trust. She had been hiding it from me, lying to my face. It felt like the ground beneath me had cracked open, and I was falling into an abyss. "You what?" "You're with him." I couldn't even form the words. "I never wanted to hurt you, but I didn't know how to tell you the truth. I thought you'd be angry, but now I see I've already lost you." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw the vulnerability that had been buried beneath her defensive walls. "I can't believe this, Clara. You've been my best friend for years. How could you do this to me? I'm sorry, I never meant for it to happen this way. I was scared of losing you." I stood there, staring at her, my mind racing. I had always trusted Clara, and now, I didn't even recognize her. She had been keeping secrets, betraying me behind my back, and I had been too blind to see it. "You were my best friend," I said, the words coming out broken, barely a whisper. "Until you weren't." That was the last time I spoke to Clara. It wasn't just the fact that she had lied to me, that she had kept something so important a secret. It was the betrayal of everything we had shared. In a matter of days, my entire world had fallen apart, and I was left to pick up the pieces. As I walked away from her that day, I didn't look back. I didn't know what the future would hold or if I would ever forgive her. But one thing was certain, everything had changed. The girl who'd once been my closest friend, the one who knew all my secrets, had become a stranger, and I had no idea who she was anymore. But little did I know, that was only the beginning of a much darker truth waiting to be uncovered. It's amazing how quickly the silence can become deafening. After my confrontation with Clara, I spent days in a fog of confusion, replaying every moment of our friendship, every conversation, every memory. I couldn't stop thinking about how much I had trusted her, how much I had shared with her over the years, and how easily it all seemed to have unraveled. But there was something else gnawing at me, something that felt off. Her words, the way she looked at me that day, had left an imprint on my mind. "I never meant to hurt you," she had said. "I thought you'd be angry." It wasn't just the fact that Clara had betrayed me, there was more to it. She had been hiding something, not just from me but from herself. She had confessed to seeing the guy, but there was an underlying tension in her voice, something deeper. It was as though there was more to the story than she was willing to admit, more than she even realized. The days after our confrontation felt endless. I tried to move on, to focus on my job offer, my future, but Clara's presence haunted me. The house we had once spent countless hours in, talking and laughing until the early hours of the morning, felt cold and empty without her. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something I wasn't prepared for. It was a week later when I noticed the first strange thing. I had just returned home from work, exhausted from a long day of running errands and trying to get my life back on track. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, and when I picked it up, I saw a new text message from Clara. I froze. It had been days since I'd heard from her, and this message, unlike the others, was vague, cryptic even. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. But I think you need to know something. You've been looking in the wrong place. I stared at the message, my heart pounding. What was she trying to tell me? The words hung in the air like a riddle, each one pulling me deeper into a mystery I wasn't sure I wanted to unravel. But I couldn't help myself. The curiosity, the need to understand, was overpowering. I quickly typed a response, my fingers trembling as I pressed send. What do you mean? What are you talking about? I waited. Seconds felt like hours, but Clara didn't reply. A part of me thought maybe she had sent that message by mistake, or that it was just another half-hearted attempt to reach out. But deep down, I knew it was something more. I couldn't let it go. The next day, I decided to stop by her house. I hadn't been there since that confrontation, but I needed answers. I needed to understand what was going on in her head. Maybe seeing her face to face would help me make sense of it all. So I grabbed my coat, and without giving it a second thought, I drove to her place. As I pulled up to Clara's house, I noticed something strange. The curtains in her bedroom window were drawn, but they had never been closed like that before. It was as if she was trying to hide something. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I pushed the thought away. Maybe I was just being paranoid. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. I knocked again, this time louder, and still, there was no response. Something was wrong. Clara was home, I could feel it. The air around her house felt thick, almost suffocating, as if there was a secret being kept inside, one that I wasn't supposed to know about. With no other choice, I walked around to the back of the house and found the side door unlocked. Clara had always been forgetful, and I had a spare key. She had given it to me years ago. I let myself in. The house was eerily quiet. I called her name, but there was no answer. As I moved through the living room, I noticed something odd. There were pictures scattered on the floor. Pictures of Clara and that guy, the one she'd been seeing behind my back. But these weren't just any pictures. These were pictures of them in places they had never been, places I had never seen before. I bent down and picked one up. It was a picture of Clara and the guy, but this time they were in a dark, dimly lit room. Clara was standing next to him, but her eyes weren't focused on the camera. Instead, she was staring at something off to the side, something that didn't belong. Her face was twisted in a look of fear, a look I had never seen before. The picture felt wrong, as if it had been taken in a moment of danger. I dropped the photo, my breath catching in my throat. Something was definitely off. I moved through the house, trying to find any sign of Clara, but she was nowhere to be found. That's when I saw the journal. It was lying on her bed, open to a page that seemed to have been hastily written. I picked it up, the pages slightly crinkled, and began to read. It's getting worse. I don't know what to do. He's been pushing me to do things I'm not comfortable with, things I can't explain. And every time I try to leave, he pulls me back in. It's like I'm trapped. I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending everything is okay. I felt my stomach churn as I read those words. Clara had been hiding something from me. She had been lying, not just about the guy, but about something much darker. What had she gotten herself into? And who was this person she had become so entangled with? I flipped through the pages, desperate to understand more, when I found something that made my blood run cold. Another photo, this one tucked into the journal. It was a picture of Clara and the guy standing in front of a building, but it wasn't just any building. It was an old, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The same warehouse I had seen once as a child, and the one I had always been told to stay away from. No one ever went near it. The rumours surrounding it were enough to keep everyone at a distance. But there they were standing in front of it, as if it were their secret hideaway. I felt my heart race as I realized something. Clara wasn't just hiding a relationship from me. She was hiding something much bigger, something dangerous. I had to find out what it was. I had to confront her before it was too late. The next day, I called her. My hands were shaking as I dialed her number. I had to know the truth. I couldn't keep living with the uncertainty. I needed answers, and I needed them now. Clara, where are you? I demanded when she picked up. I can't talk right now, she said, her voice shaky. I'm not ready to tell you everything yet. You need to tell me what's going on. What have you gotten yourself into? I pressed, my frustration boiling over. I'm sorry, but I can't. It's too dangerous for you, she replied, her voice breaking. I've already said too much. I felt a chill run down my spine. What do you mean? What's so dangerous? I'm sorry. I didn't want to drag you into this. But now, it's too late. The line went dead. I was left standing there, staring at my phone in disbelief. What was she talking about? What had she gotten herself involved in? And why was she so afraid? The more I thought about it, the more the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. Clara had been acting strange for weeks, pushing me away, keeping secrets. She had been sending me hidden messages all along, messages that I had ignored. And now, it was clear whatever she was hiding, it was dangerous. It was only a matter of time before I found out just how deep this rabbit hole went. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt this unsettled. The days had dragged on, each one like a slow-moving blur of anxiety and confusion. The more I tried to move past the strange behavior from Clara, the deeper I found myself tangled in the web of her lies, her secrets. I had convinced myself that I needed to confront her, but the thought of it made me sick to my stomach. What if I was wrong? What if I was just overreacting? But then, I remembered the journal, the photos, the things I had discovered. No, there was no way I could back out now. Something dark was happening, and I couldn't turn away from it. Clara had been avoiding me more and more over the past week. Every time I tried to reach her, she either ignored my calls or made up excuses about being too busy. It was clear she was hiding something, and I was becoming obsessed with finding out what it was. The thought of her continuing to lie to me, keeping me in the dark, made me feel like I was losing control of everything I once knew. One evening, I decided that enough was enough. I had to see it for myself. I had to know the truth. And the only way to do that was to catch her in the act. I didn't know what exactly I was looking for, but something told me that if I followed my gut, I'd find the answers I was desperately seeking. I waited until the evening, when I knew Clara would be out with her mystery man. That was when she always seemed to slip away, when she thought I wouldn't be watching, when she thought I wouldn't care. But I did care. I cared more than she knew. I drove to the last place I knew Clara would be, the abandoned warehouse. The one from the photo. I wasn't sure if she was still meeting him there, but my instinct told me that was where I would find her. As I pulled up to the eerie, ticking building, my heart pounded in my chest. The place was surrounded by thick trees and overgrown shrubbery, making it almost impossible to see from the road. I parked my car a few blocks away, walking the rest of the way, keeping to the shadows. The last thing I wanted was to be spotted. The warehouse loomed ahead, silent and imposing, like a forgotten relic from a past nobody wanted to remember. I moved closer, my breath shallow, each step seeming to echo louder than the last. I crouched low to the ground, creeping toward the side entrance. That's when I saw them. Clara was standing outside, talking to the man. I couldn't make out his face at first, but I knew it was him. The way they stood together, the way she leaned in close to him, it was clear they weren't just friends. Clara had always been careful about how she acted in front of me, but now, in the dim light of the evening, it was impossible to deny what was happening between them. I felt a knot twist in my stomach. I was trembling, not from fear, but from the betrayal. This was the moment I had been dreading, the moment that would shatter everything I thought I knew about her, about our friendship. There they were, right in front of me, sharing something that I would never be a part of. I stayed hidden behind a nearby dumpster, watching as Clara and the man exchanged heated words. Her face was flushed, her body tense, as though she was struggling with something she didn't want to admit. I couldn't hear their conversation, but their body language spoke volumes. He was saying something that made her laugh, an eerie, forced laugh that didn't reach her eyes. And then, just as quickly as it started, their interaction turned dark. Clara's smile faded, replaced by a look of discomfort, as if she realized just how dangerous things had become. But it was too late. I had seen enough. The confirmation I needed was right in front of me. She wasn't just hiding a relationship from me. She was hiding something dangerous, something far worse than I had imagined. I stepped back, trying to quietly retreat from my hiding spot, but in my haste, I stepped on a loose twig. The crunch echoed in the otherwise still night. Clara's head snapped around, her eyes scanning the dark, and I froze. She couldn't have seen me, but she knew something was out there. Before I had a chance to react, the man turned toward her, his voice low and urgent. "You hear something?" Clara hesitated, her eyes still searching the darkness. For a moment, time seemed to stop. I knew if I didn't leave now, she'd spot me, and I couldn't let her know I was here, not yet. Not like this. I turned and ran, my heart pounding in my chest as I sprinted away from the warehouse, my mind racing with questions. What had I just witnessed? What was happening between Clara and this man? And why had she been hiding it from me? I didn't go straight home. I couldn't face the empty silence there, the space where Clara's laughter and presence used to fill every corner. Instead, I parked my car in a quiet area and sat there, trying to make sense of everything. The truth was staring me in the face, but it didn't make any sense. Why had Clara kept it a secret? Why hadn't she told me the truth? I thought back to the journal, the pictures, and everything I had uncovered. There had to be more to it. Clara wasn't just involved with a guy, she was involved in something much deeper, something dangerous. The fear I had seen in her face that day, the fear I had seen in the photos, it was real. Clara wasn't just trying to hide a relationship, she was trying to protect me from something. But what was it? I spent the next few days trying to piece it all together. I avoided Clara's calls, her messages. I couldn't bring myself to speak to her again until I had more answers. It was too much, too overwhelming, and I wasn't ready to face the truth just yet. Then, on the third night after the warehouse incident, I received an unexpected message from Clara. This time, it was an email. I stared at the screen for a long time before opening it. The subject line was simple: "I'm sorry, I can't hide it anymore." My hands shook as I opened the message. "I know you've seen us. I know you've been following me. I didn't want this to happen. But you need to understand, I never wanted to hurt you. This is bigger than you or me. He's dangerous. If you've seen him, you need to stay away from both of us. Please, just trust me. I'll explain everything when I can. But for now, please, don't come near me again." The message ended there, leaving me with more questions than answers. But it was clear Clara was terrified, and whatever was happening, it was far more than I had imagined. The man she was with wasn't just someone who had broken her heart, he was a threat to everything she knew. And that's when I realized something. I wasn't just looking for answers anymore. I was looking for a way to save Clara. And if it meant uncovering every last secret, every dark corner of her life, then that's what I would do. But the question remained, how far was I willing to go to save her? And how deep into the darkness would I have to plunge to uncover the truth? The weight of Clara's email sat heavy on my shoulders, a dark promise that something far worse awaited if I ignored it. Her plea for me to stay away resonated in my mind, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized it was the exact opposite of what I wanted to do. I couldn't stay away, not from her, not from the truth. Clara had always been my best friend, the one person who understood me without me ever having to explain. She had always been there for me, and now, It was my turn to return the favour. But the question still gnawed at me. What was I walking into? The days after Clara's email were a whirlwind of emotions, each moment thick with tension. The unanswered questions plagued my thoughts, leaving me restless and unhinged. I knew I had to do something, confront her, confront him, but what? What if it was too dangerous? What if she was already in too deep? I couldn't back down. My instinct told me that something was off, something that went beyond Clara's involvement with this man. There was a bigger picture, one that I hadn't even begun to understand. But I would. And so, the following day, I set my plan into motion. It was time to end this. It was time to take control. I drove to the same abandoned warehouse where I had seen Clara with him. I parked a few blocks away, taking a deep breath before I exited the car. I needed to be smart, to move carefully, because one wrong step could alert them to my presence. This time, I wasn't going in to watch from the shadows. I was going in with the intention to confront them, to uncover the truth no matter what. As I crept through the underbrush toward the side of the warehouse, my heart pounded. The building looked even more desolate in the daylight, as though time had stopped the moment it was abandoned. It felt as though the place was alive with secrets I was ready to uncover. The air was thick with the scent of decay, of rust and old wood. But it was the silence that unsettled me the most. There were no sounds of footsteps or voices, just the eerie hum of nature reclaiming what had once been human space. I paused at the entrance, pressing myself against the wall. The last thing I wanted was to be caught. I waited for what felt like an eternity, my breath shallow, every nerve on edge. Then I saw him. He was standing by the open door, watching the street like a sentinel. His face was still a blur to me, but I could tell he was tall, broad-shouldered, and well-built. His posture was rigid, like someone who was always ready for a fight. The moment he turned around, I ducked out of sight, holding my breath. The faintest noise seemed to echo around me, and I knew he was coming closer. I had to move now. I darted behind a stack of wooden crates, my pulse racing. I couldn't afford to make a sound, not now. From my hiding place, I peeked out just enough to see him again. He was walking toward the back of the warehouse, heading into the shadowy depths. Clara wasn't in sight. I had no idea where she was, but I wasn't about to let him get away. I waited for what felt like hours, trying to gather my thoughts and my courage. What would I say to Clara? How could I confront her, knowing everything I now knew? Would she still deny the truth? But the decision was made. I was past the point of no return. I slowly stood, making my way toward the back of the warehouse. The doors were slightly ajar, enough to slip through without much noise. I slid inside, moving cautiously as the faint sound of voices reached my ears. The man was talking, but I couldn't make out the words. The more I moved forward, the clearer their conversation became. It was Clara. She was talking to him. "No," she said, her voice shaky, "I can't keep doing this. He's getting too close. What if he figures it out?" I froze in my tracks. He was me. I was the one she was afraid of. My heart skipped a beat. What had they been doing? What was happening between them? And why hadn't she told me the truth? Why had she let me get this far into something I wasn't prepared for? The man's voice cut through the silence, deep and menacing. "You should have told him earlier. This has gone too far. But now, there's no turning back. It's too late for that." I felt a chill run down my spine. I had no idea what this was, but I knew it wasn't something I could ignore any longer. I peeked around the corner, my stomach turning as I saw Clara and the man standing together. She was clutching her arms, her face pale, as if she was trying to make herself smaller, less noticeable. He stood tall in front of her, blocking her from any escape. My gut told me this was more than a simple affair. Something darker was happening here. I couldn't let them see me. Not yet. But I had to act. I had to do something before it was too late. I took a deep breath, calming myself as best I could. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about saving Clara from something she didn't know how to escape. I waited for the right moment, watching them closely. My heart was racing, but I knew this was the time. I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the air like a blade. "Clara," I called, my voice trembling. "What's going on? What's really happening here?" Both Clara and the man turned at the sound of my voice, their eyes widening in shock. Clara's face drained of color, and the man immediately moved toward me, his expression hardening. His jaw clenched as he took a step forward, blocking Clara from view. "This is none of your business," the man said, his voice low and threatening. "You shouldn't have come here." I didn't flinch. I wasn't scared of him, not anymore. The fear had already sunk in when I saw the truth in Clara's eyes. The betrayal, the lies, the danger, it was all too real now. I had to know everything. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked Clara, my voice raw with hurt. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" Clara's lips trembled, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I couldn't bring you into this," she whispered. "It's not just about him. It's bigger than you think." The man moved closer, his presence imposing. "You need to leave. Now." I held my ground. "Not until I understand. Not until I know what's really going on here." There was a long pause, the air thick with tension. Finally, the man stepped back, his gaze flicking between Clara and me. "Fine," he said, his voice laced with coldness. "You want the truth. Here it is. We're not just hiding a relationship or some stupid affair. This is about power. Control. And you don't get to know anything more." I stood there, frozen, as his words sunk in. Power. Control. What did he mean by that? But before I could ask another question, Clara stepped forward, her eyes desperate. "Please," she whispered. "I never wanted you to be involved. But it's too late now. Please, just leave before it gets worse." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I realized then that Clara had been involved in something far bigger than I had ever imagined. Something dangerous, something that could destroy everything I knew about her. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fix this. But I knew one thing: I wasn't going to let her walk away from this. Not without facing the truth. And so, I did what I thought was best. I turned around and walked away, leaving them behind in that forgotten place. But as I left, I knew I was far from done. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I'd seen enough to understand that the only way to take back control, to take back my life, was to confront the darkness head on. Whatever it took, I would find out the truth. And I would make them regret ever bringing me into this world of lies.